Hardtails, state of the art in the 1990s. Today, a hardtail is a great budget bike, a great beginner bike even, or an extra bike to have in your shed because you're loaded. It's a bike that many people buy for economic reasons rather than performance ones, and for your first adventures off-road, they're great. But they shouldn't really be an alternative to a full suspension bike if you have the option, or to be confused that they'll teach you better skills. And an EMTB hardtail is quite a different piece of kit to an MTB version.
Now there is a major difference between a hardtail e-mountain bike and a hardtail mountain bike. They are two very different tools. Now, it has been said that I actually hate hardtails. Let me get something very clear. I love all bikes off-road that are reasonably good. What I dislike is much of the misinformation that is bouncing around about hardtails. Things such as hardtails teach you the best skills. I think that any bike will teach you skills, but they'll teach you just different skills. More than this, a hardtail MTB is quite a different tool to a hardtail eMtb. Nevertheless, they do share many similarities, such as beginner bikes for getting into the sport. There's a big plus there. For someone who wants to learn foundation bike skills, there's a big tick there too. And also, if you're looking for a budget bike to get into mountain biking, a big tick in that respect. You could also argue they're better at riding smoother trails. In fact, our colleagues at EMBN say that for smooth trails and pump tracks, they're possibly the fastest. And it's said that hardtail mountain bikes allow you to find smooth lines and avoid obstacles on the trail. I'm not so sure about that.
And after all, finding smooth lines simply means finding smooth lines, which might not be the fastest route.
I think what's interesting is that when you see some pro riders that say, go and get a hardtail bike, I think what they're missing is the fact that they are in themselves amazing riders. They can put a hardtail into places which most people can't. So what we're witnessing is their supreme skills, not the skills of riding a hardtail bike or the benefits of riding a hardtail bike, should I say. So I think for a newcomer coming into the sport, thinking that a hardtail will actually teach them the great base skills, they're probably better off buying a £1,500 full suspension bike, which will give them increased grip, increased comfort, and therefore more confidence. The lines you would take on a hardtail would actually be different ones to what you would take on a full suspension bike. So you could argue they simply teach you different skills and different lines. So, hardtails allegedly allow you or teach you to find smooth lines and avoid collisions. Listen, this is my idea of heaven, but in winter it's going to be dirty, wet, off camber, slick route sludge. And the best tool to teach you how to ride a full suspension bike down through this kind of terrain, yes, believe it or not, is actually a full suspension bike. And such things as tyres, tyre pressure, suspension pressure, the weighting front and rear, the fine details of riding a full suspension bike can only be learned by riding a full suspension bike. Now, 2 points from that, it actually assumes that you do want to go and ride stuff like that. And also, and very importantly, a hardtail eMtb will handle quite differently to a hardtail MTB. So, eMtb is different, and let's face it, eMtb doesn't have the range of hardtails that mountain bike has, such as cross-country, dirt jump, trials, progressive hardtail, gravel, bike packing. I mean, if you want to get a bike like that, get something such as, I don't know, the Stoic, which is a progressive hardtail at £899. But think about it, a full suspension Neuron from the Canyon range, and obviously just one example, there's many out there, is 1,500 quid. So the differential between hardtail and full suspension in mountain biking isn't as much as it is in EMTB. And the other point is, if you want to go and ride dirt jumps or pump tracks or flow trails, go and buy a BMX, or maybe go and get a trials bike which will teach you good balance skills. Don't make the mistake of thinking an EMTB hardtail will do all the things that those bikes I just mentioned can do. It's really funny. Joey's just really picked me up on this by saying, well, actually all his skills were learned on a hardtail. And I 100% don't dispute that. If I think about it, from when I was 4 till when I was 30, I actually rode rigid bikes off-road from 1988 to 96, a stump jumper, which is stump jumper comp, which is a rigid steel bike. And so yes, I think 100% they will teach you good grounded bike skills. However, the skills of riding a full suspension bike are quite different. But look, I'm not a hater of hardtails. As I said, most of my life I've ridden rigid bikes off-road. Now it's worth pointing out that EMTBs are heavier than MTB hardtails. They're designed to do different things, a different sport even, and you cannot apply an MTB mindset, as I've mentioned, to an EMTB one. For example, they'll be slower in proper off-road situations. Yes, you might find yourself in pretty out-of-the-way places. They'll have less grip, less comfort, less control. They'll also beat the living daylights out of you, because let's face it, an EMTB travels across ground faster than an MTB does. You'll get your feet bounced off the pedals, and you might also be paying more on maintenance because, let's face it, they'll cover that rough ground quicker. The next really important point is pricing. We're actually seeing increased separation between hardtail EMTBs and full suspension EMTBs. So this is really something you need to bear in mind. So yes, that is the problem, and it's increasingly so when you're looking at mid-drive hardtail EMTBs. Even basic bikes such as Cubes or Giant Fathoms or Specialized Turbo Terror, you're looking at £2,500 to £3,000. You might actually be better off going the extra yard and investing in a full suspension EMTB, or indeed maybe a hybrid bike. Not only that, we're actually seeing a separation in price now between mid-drive EMTBs and hub-drive EMTBs. So basic hardtail bikes are now around about £2,500 to £3,000. So you might actually be better off going for maybe a hybrid bike, adaptable, comfortable. It's a good choice if you're doing that kind of riding, fire roads and smoother single track. So hopefully that's a little introduction into hardtail EMTBs for you. But remember, smooth trails, they're fantastic. The thing is, your horizons might expand and the trails might wear out.